Please join us by standing. And Ashley and Evan, when you are ready, you can lead us in pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much.
Each of the board members has been provided with an advanced copy of tonight's agenda. There have been no additions to that agenda to my knowledge. There will be a correction of order in section 4. Section 4.4 will become section 4.1, so that will be our first item of discussion when we get to that portion of the agenda. All the other numerical things will be there. Hopefully somebody will remind you of that when we get to section 4. I will now accept the motion that we accept the addition of the agenda as presented. So it has been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Do we need to take a roll call vote, or are we good to go? Okay. We're good to go in person. All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. This is the point in our agenda where we invite public input for items that are on the agenda for tonight's meeting. This is not a time to make commentary about any item not on the agenda for tonight's meeting. If you wish to address the board for an item that's not on the agenda, you're invited to do that by contacting Ms. Altizer, and they're scheduled for that to occur. I don't have the exact script in front of me, so forgive me here, but this is also not a time to mention individuals by name, particularly the names of students. Is there anyone that wishes to address the board this evening about an item on tonight's agenda? Seeing no one, we'll now move to the community interest report. Mr. Walters, you have a group of fine young men here to introduce us to, I believe.
Thank you all for allowing us to present tonight. It's been my privilege for these past 4 years to sponsor the Kennedy HOWL'ers Club, and I'm very fortunate this year. I have an assistant to help me, my student teacher, Mr. Chase, is with us tonight as well. And he's been
Right there. Can we see who you are?
He's been a tremendous asset to the HOWL'ers Club this year. But I'm going to turn it over to these fine young gentlemen to talk to you about what we did for our HOWL'ers Club and how we support our police sport community.
Who are the Kennedy HOWL'ers? The Kennedy HOWL'ers are a group of young men chosen from 3rd, 4th, and 5th grades at Kennedy Elementary School. HOWL'ers are expected to be leaders at school and in the community. HOWL'ers are expected to be role models for Kennedy HOWL'ers expectations, helping others overcome the challenges, having a willingness to learn, and lead with respect.
What is the mission of the Kennedy HOWL'ers Club? The mission of the Kennedy HOWL'ers Club is to build a small group of young men as leaders. In the Kennedy and Thyssenkrupp communities, through habits, expectations, and activities, behavior, and leadership. Our goals are reached through partnerships among the Kennedy teachers and administrations, as well as community partnerships with guest speakers and site visits for our
Core values. Look your best stands for dressing to be successful. Do your best stands for giving 110%
Do your best students for following all of the core values and being the best of life. Rules and habits. Dan Howl'ers follows set of rules and habits at school and at home every day. Examples: how to shake hands with someone, look others in the eyes while speaking to them, looking others in the eyes while speaking, addressing adults with yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am, treating all students and adults with respect.
Helping others. Helping each other when we are dealing with difficult situations. We make posters to say thank you. We partnered with the chamber to create posters for workers during the COVID-19 pandemic. These posters were displayed at Valley Health facilities. Random acts of kindness moving throughout the community, providing citizens with support and kindness.
Overcoming challenges. Setting and achieving personal and academic goals. Setting high expectations for each other to become the best we can be as community members. Doing our personal best on the assignments and actively helping others in need.
Willingness to learn. Learning to be leaders and role models for our community and school. Learning citizenship skills for now and the future. Kindness, friendship, problem-solving skills, pride, and responsibility. And to learn about our Kingsport community and how we can support it better in the future.
Doing our personal best, being a role model when others are not looking, being the examples of the 3 core values. Community partners. Some of our community partners include Kingsport Senior Partners, Downtown, Kingsport Aquatic Center, Community Elementary PTA, and Albertville High School. Thank you. Thank you to our Board of Education, Kingsport City Schools, for the support as we grow as leaders who have in Kingsport and our Kingsport community.
I think to close, we're going to offer our traditional Kennedy salute. I think our guys are going to close us with a Kennedy How tonight. So, you guys ready? 1, 2, 3.
Thank you so much, Mr. Walters, and thank you, gentlemen, for coming and sharing information about your organization with us. I want to congratulate you on doing such a great job reading those to us in public. That's not an easy thing to do. So thank you all. Don't feel like you need to stick around if you want to head up.
Hey, young men, I just wanted to quickly say to the young men, thank you for going above and beyond there at your school, for being role models. Really proud of you for willing to be leaders and willing to have other people look at you. So, and by the way, you look really sharp in your ties. Mr. Walters, thank you for the time that you put in to these young men. Dr. Irvin, thank you for your support.
Thank you all.
Step in here briefly just to welcome the people who are watching this on YouTube live. We're no longer doing the real deaths. Sorry that we're late getting to you, but we had some technical issues here. We do have a public meeting present, so we went ahead and began the meeting. Members of the board were provided a consent agenda and the appropriate documents. Under that agenda, I'll now accept the motion that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Been moved,
Second.
been moved and second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It has been moved and accepted. That moves us to the business items. We're calling it now item 4.4, budget amendment number 1 is the first item on the agenda, so if we can get that down to the I have budget amendment number 1. I have on my hard copy. Right.
So it's 4.4.
I have it.
No.
Well, I have my hard copy. Must be different.
On the hard copy.
Okay.
And so we need to move the budget amendment to the
Good evening. We have for your consideration, first budget amendment for fiscal year 2021. This budget amendment is necessary in order that we can go ahead and purchase our student laptops that we would normally purchase in the first of the fiscal year, which would be July of 2021. These funds are normally budgeted in that current fiscal year, which would be the 21-22 budget year. We have learned that if we wait until July to order these devices, that we more than likely are looking at a 90-day delivery, which that's coming in at the end of September, early October.
If they can meet the 90 days.
If they can meet the 90 days. We've also been told that if we can get these ordered first or second week of March, that will have them late April, early May. Excuse me. So the quote that we got on computers was $462,590. In order to purchase these in this time frame, we would need to make the appropriation for that amount of money. At this time, I'm recommending that the board approve the budget amendment to take these funds from our unreserved fund balance and go ahead and purchase these devices. The plan at this time would be that we would budget those funds for these devices in next year's budget, which we have budgeted those funds now for the past 6 years or so. So it's pretty much an ongoing recurring budget item now. But we have budgeted those funds and then not spend those monies next year, and then those at that point would revert back to fund balance, to repay the fund balance, basically almost a year and a half from now. So this would give us, place that order, actually board made on, approve this budget and now second reading. The 1st of March. We would have devices in students' hands first day of school.
So just so I have some parliamentary clarification here, Mr. Fry, the budget amendment is that we take the $462,590 from our existing funds to purchase these because of the time issue. The other item on the agenda, the one-to-one Chromebook device is specifically those computers that we are going to purchase. Is that correct?
Yes, this is a budget amendment to put the funds in place.
Okay. So what we need to do first is have an action to put those funds in place before we approve the purchase of the Chromebooks themselves. Am I correct as in that? So the recommended action here then has to do with taking $462,590. Our existing reserve fund, is that correct? Yes, sir. You have that as the recommended action.
Just to approve budget amendment number 1.
Questions or concerns? For Mr. Fry, board members regarding this? There'll be a separate vote on the Chromebooks themselves, correct? None? Record, would you read the recommended action again, please, Ms. Altizer?
To approve budget amendment number 1.
So moved. Got a second? Ms. Byers, a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? So we have done that. That's taken care of. Would you like to move the Chromebook device thing now to the next item while you're here, since that has been, we can do that. So we'll go ahead and drop to, unless there's objection from the board, we'll go to the approval of the student one-to-one Chromebook device purchase.
So as I mentioned, we do have a quote, for $462,590 for the purchase of the Chromebooks. These are the devices for the upcoming 6th and 9th grade. Approximately 1,385 devices. That unit cost of $334 each. We'll be utilizing the National Cooperative Purchasing Alliance contract for this purchase, which is a national purchasing cooperative, where these are the previously competitive bid. So it's our recommendation that the board approve the purchase of 1,385 devices at a total cost of $462,590.
Dr. Austin, do you have anything to add to that?
No,
Don't believe you out.
no, that's fine.
Any questions, comments, or Mr.
I'm
Lee?
just curious, what's a life expectation of a laptop in the students' hands these days?
About 4 years on these particular.
You say 4? Wow.
And with these devices, we purchased a 4-year unlimited accidental repair on them as well. So that gives us the life of the device.
The Chromebooks have been better than, we put some Dells we got, they were far more expensive and didn't last as long. These Chromebooks are great.
Yeah, the Lenovo's have been, this is the first year we had them. This year before that we had Acers, and before that we had Dell, and these Lenovo's have outperformed those previous versions.
For less than $100 a year per kid. That's, you new computers that ever get that cheap.
Got some price of biology textbook. Ms. Altizer, can you read the recommended action for us?
I don't think it's in the handout here, but it's to approve the purchase of 1,385 Lenovo 100E Chromebooks from Travera LLC, utilizing the National Cooperative Purchasing Alliance contract number 01-43.
Thank you, ma'am. A motion to accept the recommended action.
Motion to accept.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to accept the recommended action. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, now we're at the approval of teacher and school resource officer laptop purchase.
Are you gonna do that for the E-rate category?
Oh, sorry. My bad. I do, yeah. So we just run the approval of the E-rate category to our, yeah, the history part, to our, Dr. Robinson.
Yeah, so what we're bringing before you now is our yearly category 2 hardware purchase that we do through E-rate. This year, what we're wanting to do is upgrade the fiber connections between the network closets at the middle schools and the high schools to give us a little bit more bandwidth on the connection between those closets and the main distribution. This goes out to mini bid through the Tennessee Education Board Consortium. That went out and we had 5 proposals come back. Of those 5 proposals, we chose personal computer systems with the best price to make these runs, and it includes some hardware at each end as well as the fiber cabling. So what we're suggesting is that you approve for us to move forward with this mini bid from personal computer systems for $45,021.41 to execute the Tennessee Board Consortium multiple schedule state master contract.
Discussion, questions?
What kind of performance are the kids going to see, or the teachers? What's the overall bump in speeds or bandwidth or?
It will allow us to move to a 10 gig backbone inside the network itself.
What are we at right now?
I'm sorry?
What are we at right now?
With the current fiber we're probably about half that speed. Now that's all depending on the hardware on either end, right? So you could see a bump up to 10 gig, you could see it stay where it's at depending on as we upgrade hardware throughout the network. But it gives us the capability to move that 10 gig back as we can replace hardware.
Any other questions or comments? All those are text us. Recommended action on that one. Please.
To approve awarding the E-rate category 2 hardware bid to personal computer systems for $45,021.41 and execute the Tennessee Broadband Consortium multiple schedule / state master contract order form.
I have a motion to accept the recommended action.
So moved.
Been moved. Is there a second? Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passed. You got me nervous to go back to wherever I'm going back to. Now I'm going to the teacher and school resource officer, right?
Yeah.
Yes. That's okay. My job is to keep this train on the tracks. Failing at it so far this evening.
Okay, so we have some funds already budgeted in FY21 to purchase more computers for teachers and SROs. So what we have done is reached out and got 3 quotes on some Dell laptops and docking stations for 200 teacher devices as well as 4 SRO desktop devices. And Dell came back with the best price. And so what we're recommending is that the board approve a motion to issue a purchase order to Dell for the purchase of 200 laptops and docking stations for $235,588 and 4 Optiplex 3070s desktops for $3,166.36. So for a total cost of $238,754.36.
Want to amend my previous comment about Dell.
Tom left
Difference
Dell.
between a Chromebook and an actual.
These are not the Dells we were talking about earlier.
And these are for teachers, not students. So where are the Optiplex desktops going to be used?
They're going to be used for 4 of the SROs. I have to go back and look. I can't remember which ones. I know one of them was at DB, and I think there was one at Robinson, but I have to go back and look and see exactly which ones are on the schedule.
So why wouldn't we give them a laptop? Why a desktop?
They want the desktop.
Okay.
They also have all the security screens, and so they need a little bit of power there to look at all the cameras and stuff. So they want the desktop.
Other questions or comments? All those are in agreement with recommended action for, please, ma'am.
To approve issuing a purchase order with Dell for the purchase of 200 laptops and docking stations for $235,588 and 4 Optiplex 3070 for $3,166.36.
So moved.
Second.
I'll second that.
Been moved and second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Has passed. The next item is approval of the Thyssenkrupp elevator maintenance agreement.
So in the past, we have normally paid for our elevator repairs on a pay-as-you-go basis. Our maintenance department is recommending that we enter into a maintenance contract to maintain these elevators at 11 of our facilities. The amount we spent in last fiscal year was just about $47,500. We have a proposal to enter into this maintenance agreement for $40,260 for the first year of the agreement. There is a provision in the agreement that allows for an annual escalation not to exceed 4% on an annual basis. These funds are currently budgeted within our maintenance budget, so our maintenance department is seeing this as a cost savings and hopefully some more reliable repairs and operation of our elevators.
Questions or comments?
I know this is, I'm sure you know all about this. Is it a preventative maintenance, or is it the press has issues pop up? No? Your vast knowledge of elevator operation?
Well, I don't know the answer to that. I would imagine that there is some degree of preventative maintenance in there, but I cannot tell you that for 100%.
And does this cover all of, so no matter how many times they come back
Yes.
to look at it,
Yes.
this is a blanket that covers all of it? And do we know if is that 47 that we spent in FY20, is that typical, or is that higher?
That's that was just an outline year again. Next department. That we just keep the status quo, but if they look back in the past, then that's normal.
So the escalation of 1%, up to 4%, that's per year that they can increase it 4%, and that is based on just because they want to raise it, or is it based on number of calls, or what's that 4% escalation based on?
I could not tell you what they base that on. I would say that is standard practice with any contract of this type, to where they can have stick at a $40,260 amount over a 5-year period. I don't think we can expect it. I will say that it's no more than 4%. I have to look into the contract a little bit more to see if there's a basis in there. I'm not sure if it's based on consumer price index or something like that. But it is standard for the rates at this time.
Is this going to affect any employees in the maintenance department?
Because all these elevator repairs are done by outside vendors.
Oh, so we've been contracting out anyway.
Yes, we've just been calling the repairs.
Probably these guys anyway.
For the most part.
We just put them under contract for a lower price.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
This way they have their income guarantee. So it's,
I was just impressed that we had employees that could fix elevators. I did that. That's how much knowledge you have on elevators.
It could be one of our next CTE programs.
Yeah.
Where we're going.
It sounds like a wonderful one to me. Any other discussion or questions regarding this? Ms. Altizer, can you do the recommended action, please, ma'am?
To approve a request to enter into a 5-year maintenance agreement with Thyssenkrupp Elevator Corporation for the annual contract amount of $40,260.
Move. Second.
Move second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Brings us to item 4.5, approval of professional services agreement. Mattern Craig for Legion Drive Roundabout installation.
Yes, so if you're familiar with the current layout of Legion Drive, coming off of East Center Street for the high school, it now comes down and terminates above the Civic Auditorium parking lot on the east side of the Civic Auditorium. And you'll also notice that there are several orange barriers, Jersey barriers that are at that location. A string of them divides the Civic Auditorium parking lot to the road so that we don't have pedestrian traffic crossing the road at that location. There's also in the middle of the road some Jersey barriers where we have a temporary roundabout at the current time. This has been in place since the start of construction on the Science and Technology building. And we've always had plans to, well, I won't say always had plans, but we had that as a temporary measure while we were building the Science and Technology Center. And during that, the high school administration found out that that works really well. And so since that time, they've now asked that we make that a permanent situation and put a permanent roundabout there with the appropriate drainage. Sidewalks are necessary, and some sort of devices, whether it be bollards or what, that we keep the Civic Auditorium parking lot traffic separate from this traffic on Legion Drive. So we talked with the city's engineering department, and they recommended that we contract with Mattern and Craig to do the design work on this project. They are familiar with that area. They helped us with some design work, some site work at Science and Technology building. And they have given us a proposal to complete this design work and bidding for a lump sum amount of $19,880. We anticipate that this design work will be completed in a time frame this spring in order to get this project out to bid and completed by the start of next school year.
To give you an idea on the other side of it, of what that project probably would cost once the design work's done, the estimate that they shared with the board or with us, they think it would be right around $50,000 to do this. We looked at what it costs to do the roundabout that we have already in place off of Midland. That one's a little more involved because you got several on and offs right there. That one was $72,000. So you're looking at about $50,000 to get that done. We'll know once we put it out to bid. Obviously, that was, once you put that out, construction costs are a little more than they were then, but that kind of gives you a ballpark.
And it will also depend on too what type of, if we need to do some repairs to the roadway.
Sure.
Some of that roadway in front of the theater steps there, we may decide to do some work on that. Like I said, separating that traffic from the Civic Auditorium So we'll consider all of that.
Will the roundabout coming on Legion connect with the roundabout on Midland? Or they'll be completely separate?
Those will be separate. Yeah, there has not been, a traffic flow from Legion Drive onto Midland since the beginning of construction of science and technology, and with this, that will be, there will not be a connection between Legion Drive and Midland.
Why is that? Why did, I can't remember.
I
Why did we?
was just wondering why that was. Since it used to.
Well, it just works out, the high school just works really well with the way that the traffic flow comes in and circles back around. How it is with
I want to defer to.
Yes.
Another piece would be the safety aspect. Students coming from that parking lot, from the civic that interrupt to the little theater. Previously, they were crossing traffic there, and I can speak personally, having been an assistant principal there, that can get a little challenging at times, and it's removed all those safety issues. That's a big reason.
If we approve this, will we get to see what before we decide, are they gonna present a couple of designs, I'm guessing, or is this just a single design they already have kind of mocked up?
I would imagine it would be a single design, but we'll certainly be able to share that. It will come down and terminate with the roundabout that's going to be in place there. The roundabout will probably be in the location where the driveway goes up behind the theater, where it currently is now. But yes, we'll bring that.
So we would look at the final design before we approve the actual cost, construction cost of that project.
So, sorry, one more question. So this is just for the design, and then we'll take this design and bid it out to several companies?
Yes.
Not, I mean, not that's good. But I'm just making sure.
This is just for the design.
This is just, that's what I'm just clarifying.
And they will provide us with bid documents and specifications and all that.
That's what my understanding was, and then you said something, I was like, wait a minute, we just, you know,
No,
one
this is
fish in
just-
the pond, and I don't forget about
This
that,
is just
but
for
I'm
the
good.
design work and going through the, so.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? All those are the recommended action, please, ma'am.
To approve executing an agreement with Mattern Incorporated to provide civil engineering services for the Legion Drive Roundabout project for the amount of $19,880.
Have a motion for the recommended action.
Motion to approve.
Been moved and second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passed. I guess you can leave now. Till you come up in just a moment. If you want to stay there. Dr. Drew, we're looking at an approval of a calendar adjustment for the school year 21-22, is that correct?
2021 and 21-22. Thank you, Mr. Well. Yes, there are 4 calendar considerations we're bringing to you for discussion tonight. 2 of them are really looking to affirm changes requested at the high school regarding graduation. And then 2 others involving the 21-22 calendar to discuss and to get your thoughts on this evening. For ease, if it's okay with you all, just to talk, since they're kind of a little bit separate, talk about the graduation date first. Graduation details generally are set by the high school in setting the logistics of that. There's a little bit of overlap because they show up on the calendar. That you go through. So we wanted to bring that to you for your endorsement this year. In analyzing the graduation event that occurred this past year during the summer, you may remember that event was moved to an evening event rather than a morning event.
Later into the summer.
Into the summer, exactly, for considerations regarding weather, heat, and those sorts of things. As the high school has really looked at that and considered that concept for an event, taking place in the evening and looking at the calendar and looking at the logistics of the end of the year. They are looking to move the graduation date from Saturday morning this year, May 22nd, to Friday evening, the 21st. Again, in their analysis and their discussion of the event, having a Friday night under the lights was an environment that they got a lot of positive feedback on, and that they feel they wanted to continue with. Again, we're asking for your endorsement of this over the next 2 years because it shows in the calendar. This also, the other benefit to this would allow for Saturday rain dates that we don't currently, as constructed, have as much wiggle room on. Generally, when you get into this potential for rain on Saturday morning, it's the question of inside, outside versus just a postponement or a shift of the time. So having it on Friday evening as an originally scheduled date, that would then allow them to shift really two different ways. They could go to a Saturday morning, again, depending on weather, could shift to a Saturday evening. That would allow them a little more flexibility with the rain concept. So they're asking for your endorsement of that for the next 2 years to move graduation to the Friday evenings. They have thought about things like travel and family celebrations. Their thoughts generally are that the benefits to shifting to the Friday evening, to have the event, have Saturday open for family availability events, family celebrations would still be there. And they would prefer to shift that to the Friday evening. So they're looking for your endorsement of that concept. Any questions on that? We can move along, or however you want to handle it.
No, being a participant in it last year with having a child, I thought it went really well, and I do think the kids enjoyed the evening. Obviously I'm partial to it again because I have another child this year going through it, but I do think the evening turned out really, really well. People were really energized and allowed really families to be able to travel in easier for that day. So I understand why everybody was excited about it. So that's just my 2 cents worth that I'm not supposed to share.
Tends to be cooler too. Potentially be cooler.
Yeah, it could be cooler, or it could be really cold. You don't know in May, but it was really nice to look out at the students in the dark. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents worth.
You mean cooler than standing out in the sun in black robes?
Yes, would be cool. So, Dr. True, would you like to have this as 2 separate?
If you would like that, we could lump those together, again, if you want, however you all would choose for it, to vote on that.
So again, and please understand this is coming in my role as president here. It is not our responsibility to set the graduation date and time, but you're saying that because it appears on the calendar, on our printed calendar, we need to endorse this.
We're asking for your endorsement.
So our action here is to endorse,
Yes, sir.
not to set the graduation time, but to endorse the high school's flexibility in change.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Okay. I'll take exactly word that. So this would be, the recommended action would be to endorse a change in the graduation schedule for Dallas Bennett High School for the
2021 and 2022 graduation dates, moving them to Friday evening. In 21, it would be Friday, May 21, 2021, and in the 22 date, it's Friday, May 20th.
So it's our motion then would be to endorse a date change for the 2021 and 2022 graduation dates for Dallas Bennett High School. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So
I second it. I'm sure you're shocked.
You're quick on that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Endorsement has passed.
The other 2 requests would involve specific action, as calendar setting. And I'll talk about both of them individually. The first question, the first issue was involving fall break of 2021. It's now being not started with next year's calendar, both of these issues. And this occurred because we generally obviously set our calendar, we vote on our calendar in October, we take the first look in September. The athletic calendar comes in 2-year cycles. And generally, that is not set until after we have our vote on the calendar. So when that 2-year cycle was set for the fall athletic calendar, it was noted that our fall break does not align with the athletic bye week for football in 2021. So the discussion was involving a potential shift of fall break a week earlier to align with that. Again, this is something that the high school has asked to consider. There are obviously, I think there are issues on both sides of that equation when it comes to whether or not to proceed with that change. We generally will not in the future know that kind of a bye week before we set our calendar. It's just not happen that early. I think there's a question for consideration on for this coming year, the fact that this calendar has been set for a period of time since last October for folks that have already made plans or have things scheduled. On the other side of that equation, I think there is a significant part of the population and families at Dobbins Bennett that could benefit from having alignment with that kind of bye week concept. So the high school just asked that to be brought to the board for discussion and consideration before we all to look at that issue. The fourth item on the request involves a potential scheduled trip of the Dobbins Bennett Band to Ireland to perform at St. Patrick's Day Parade. Currently, our calendar has been set for spring break to take place the last week of March 28th through April 1 of 2022. The band would ask to look at this issue, and IDP has asked us to look at this issue. Their trip would fall the week of St. Patrick's Day, which would be the week of March 14th to 18th. So a shift of the spring break earlier to allow for that would minimize the amount of instructional days lost to a significant portion of the Dobbins Bennett student body. That would be something that they again ask for you all to consider to look at. Should that trip, again, you could look at pros and cons of both of these issues with this one. When it comes to things already being set, at the same time, the instructional loss that could be with the students, as well as at this point, we have done this in the past to shift spring break because of a planned overseas trip that did not happen. That is something, again, they would anticipate for making this trip. So those are just two considerations that they asked to present to you all for discussion and consideration.
What's the plan for the in-service day that's on the 14th?
We would have to look at that as far as how to handle that, because that is an in-service day right now. Depending on your decision on that, we would need to relocate that. Typically, that would go that 14th March. The middle of the 9 weeks. So I think what we would look to do at that point, if we had to make that change, would be to attach that to the weekend so that you would be able to continue to have either you could put it on the back end on the 21st, or you could choose to do it on the front end on the 11th. Because that, again, the 11th would still continue to be the end of the 9 weeks. We would need to, if you make that change, we would need to put it on the week before or the week after. Generally, we have looked at having, again, through our CNI department, have recommended Monday in-service days rather than Friday in-service days for others. So I think the recommendation would be to shift that date to the 21st of March, so we can still have that Monday in-service date.
Great. Yeah, that's what I was suggesting.
And then my question is, if we move the October break back a week, is that going to impact anything with the end of the 9 weeks and trying to get everything finalized at that point? Because usually we have a week in between, but that would be like immediately after.
Currently that date, October 22nd, you'll remember we set that as an in-service day, as a regional in-service day for a collective, potential for a collective planned professional development activity across the region. So that date of the October 22nd would stay.
No, my question is, the 9 weeks ends October 1st, right?
The 9 weeks ends on October 1st, yes.
And so then the break would be immediately following.
Correct, yeah, I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Yeah, I don't want it very well.
The 9 weeks ending would stay where it was on the first. That would, shifting the break a week forward would not alter the end of the 9 weeks.
Will that cause any chaos or issues with the teachers who usually have some time to get grading in and kids are gonna be, heading out early for fall break or whatever? Is that gonna cause any issues that direction?
You would still look at having progress reports, report cards would still then flex to that next Thursday after we come back. So, they would still have a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday work day in order for report cards to go out. If that happened, we would shift report cards, I would assume, to the 14th, which is the first Thursday after.
And back to people might be planning, nobody's planning anything. So I think this of all years would be the year that we could move something. So
Yeah, I think we probably have greater latitude on moving the October thing than we normally have in terms of disrupting. And as soon as I say that, I'm gonna go home to a screen full of emails from people who have things booked, I'm sure. Given that we have this issue, and this is a sidebar question to the changing of the calendar, but this has a potential of being a recurring issue for our fall break. Is there a way that when we do our calendar for 2022-23, that we stipulate that there will be a fall break, but it to be announced when we know when that bye week is, as opposed to publishing the dates? Because I don't want to get into a situation where we do have people making long-term plans to do something special over fall break, family plans, whatever those things may be, and then us having set a precedent of moving that fall break because of the situation that we encountered this year.
Couple of things that come to mind on that, and I would have to, before I commit to it in a public setting, I would have to confirm.
But I'm sure.
If I'm understanding correctly, generally the calendar is going to be set in a 2-year cycle, the athletics calendar. So we should know what happens in 21 and 22.
Okay.
There should be some uniformity in that. Moving forward beyond that, however, there is no, to my understanding, there is no set pattern on when that week may fall year over year. If it falls in, the middle of October, it could be late October, it could be, there isn't necessarily a defined time. So that would be a question I think we would need to discuss, is if when we get to the fall break of 23, is it a scenario where we could be looking at a bye week that is not close to the normal middle of October? So that would be, I think, a question we would need to ask. I would want to weigh in to get more input from the athletic department, just if they can
Yeah.
a little bit more.
I encourage that we have some of those discussions, because there are multiple things come into play there. If we have a scheduled game that week, then chances are, particularly if it's a home game, our attendance will be significantly less, or we'll have, so there are all kinds of things that looking at that particular break. So that's something for future discussion.
And also understanding too, some of you have connections with the band program. There are still those types of activities that are going on throughout the fall as well. As they set their calendar, again, I don't presume what that schedule is, but there are still those types of activities that are going to happen throughout the month of October, regardless of what happens.
I was just thinking the band kids might actually be happy if we move it, because there's a greater chance that they might get a fall break, since usually they have a competition in the beginning and the end of the fall break.
Make it back up.
This affects everybody, not just the high school.
Correct. This would be for.
I'm all for what you want to do, but I think we need to always remember that this is still a pretty much a blue collar area. And we're talking about childcare is an important consideration. And the more time parents have to plan for that, the better. It's not about, in my opinion, it's not about taking a ski trip or something like that. That's a lot more important than a bye week. And nobody's bigger supporter of athletics than I've been in a lot. So, but we need to remember that. Because you kind of get lost in this vortex of people who doing trips and all those kinds of things, and we sort of forget about it. And it's not just the high school.
You said this recommendation came from the athletics department?
From the high school.
Okay, just the high school in general. Because it is both that band at the high school level. It is also football and band, because anyone's that have a kid in the band, you don't get the full fall break. So it does affect that, and if you do back that up, it will affect band and football, and it will affect the rest of the city as well. I gotta be honest, I almost rather ask them. This close in to October, because I know there's people that have already made plans, I guarantee you. Already made plans.
Well, to Mr. Dean's point, there are people that may have made plans with grandparents or other things for childcare. So again, it is not just, I'll underscore the validity of that point. It's not just they look at that calendar and what the kids have. We may be at a point where they've already made those kind of arrangements, and we're asking them to rearrange that as well. So again, it's one of those things that whichever way we go with this is going to have some pushback.
Well, do we have to make that decision today?
I think, again, people need to be able to make these plans.
So what I'm suggesting is maybe we ask the parents, send out a survey and do a turnaround on it as soon as we could. And then at the next meeting, we could do a call meeting at the beginning to either approve it if we get the feedback from the parents that says this is, and teachers too, and not just, because they're, again, to Tim's point, it's everybody across the whole system. If we take a survey from everybody and see what the consensus is and make a decision based on that.
An alternative might be just if we go ahead and decide on this and we just acknowledge that we're gonna have to have some flexibility for folks if they have already paid for vacations or things like that, that we may have to have some flexibility with that.
And if it is too close this year, I think this would also be something we could come back and look at in that second year cycle for next year as well. If you felt it's too close this year.
And again, I'm listening to the discussion here at the table. My preference would be, just, and I'm not moving this, my preference would be to table the fall break, to find out exactly what kind of impact that would have. I believe when we're looking at the spring break at this point, I'm not sure that we're talking, and we are talking about a significant impact of missing class for a significant number of students. 2022, and there's ample time on that one to make adjustments. So we could have a board action on the 2022 date and table the 2021 date to our next business meeting and have some conversations. I'm not I don't want to necessarily add a survey on what everybody else is doing right now, but I do think we need to find some form of way of getting feedback. So what kind of impact this will have, total system, and moving the fall break.
Part of the reason we constructed these requests individually was so if you needed to or wanted to a la carte them, that was certainly an option to do that. So if you would like us to pursue feedback for option or for request number 3, we absolutely will do that.
Pulling it all down, you're just asking for an endorsement anyway, right? It's not a formal motion of, we don't set the calendar.
You do.
I mean, we set the calendar, not DB's requesting. Is it just DB requesting changes?
That is where the first request.
Yeah, that was the spirit of what I was thinking. Is what are the other rest of the system? What's their thoughts on it? Is there any impact that maybe we're just not aware of?
from a process standpoint, request 1 and 2 are the endorsement fees, 3 and 4
Okay, gotcha.
would actually require more action as a
Thank you.
But we're a small group, I can place a motion on the table, that we table, revising the schedule for the fall break. Revisit that in our next business meeting. Second.
Wait, I think we ought to do it not at our next business meeting, but our next work meeting, because if we delay it another month, that could get people, going, so. Yeah, or somehow one meeting at the beginning, in February.
So you're suggesting we have a call business meeting prior to our work session, is that correct?
I mean, if we're saying their time's already running out, that's the end of February. So if we wait till March, we just keep pushing it. So if we have to get notification out, this is up for discussion to our people, or we need to probably have the discussion at our next meeting and have a call meeting first and then have a work meeting. We're going to do that. So that's my suggestion.
At your pleasure.
Yeah, I think if we already believe that October is close enough that we are hesitant to change the plans, then I would say time is of the essence, and we should do that make that decision as quickly as possible,
So
with enough time to get the input, which I would suggest would be 2 weeks.
So part of the tabling, and we'll accept that we will have a call meeting prior to our next scheduled work session. Consider this one item. And I would think that people that are going to be affected, word gets out, they're going to get back to us relatively quickly. Or they'll be silent.
Well, if we make an announcement, we're waiting on Rick to write it up as a paper, we can be a while, but if we can make an announcement and solicit feedback.
Mary Beth, that's your, I'll let the administration handle that, but if you could craft something up there.
Or make it very obvious in the minutes tonight that this is a discussion.
We could have.
Yes, we
You guys are good at that, that's your job.
So tabling and moving to our next meeting, we'll have a call meeting prior to our work session. And move second, and that is for item number 3, which is moving the fall break. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So item 3 is tabled to our next meeting, meeting. And so item 4 is this break for 2022. I have a motion that we revise the spring break.
I'm in favor of that, especially since we're going to be missing several
Does that mean
kids.
we move it? It's been moved to the second. Any further discussion on that? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So the 2022 spring break has been officially changed to March 14th to 18th.
And you have to come back and tell us where to move that date, and you have to make a movement on that date, or is that done?
So we would then, so by extension, then we would need to look at that in-service date as well. We can do that now if you would, so that we could have it done to move that. Again, staff recommendation would be that to March 21st. Following, to be able to, again, bring staff back for that middle of the 9 weeks.
I'm going to ask that you include that for discussion on our next.
Absolutely, I'd be happy to do that.
For the next.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Good. Quarterly financial report. Thank you, Dr. Drew.
So we have your financial update for half of the year, December 31st, 2020. I'll go over some of the review items that you need to be aware of. First item I'll discuss is federal revenue. So far, we have received $242,293 in CARES Act funding, specifically for a 2-to-1 technology purchase. So for every 2 technology devices that we have funded, this grant, purchased an additional device. And that total funding we received is $242,293. We still have not received about $7,000, that we will receive, for some connectivity funds. This is, to provide, mainly on a one-to-one basis through, individual Wi-Fi devices, for students. Some of these are, there's not been much change from the first financial update.
Sorry, Dave,
Yes.
2-to-1, what's the idea behind that? 2-to-1 technology? Is it?
Well, so, I may call Dr. Robinson to, give us a bit more information on this, but it's a grant for every 2 devices that we have purchased, then we have funding to purchase another device.
Just a funding, not a usage.
Yeah.
Our BEP funds, we've known for several months now that we're going to be short in our original estimate of BEP funds, to where this is a result of where the state dropped the percentage increases that we budget at the very beginning of the cycle of June last year. And we've made the provisions to.
We made the budget, yeah.
We've made provisions to offset, not in the formal budget amendment at this point, but administratively, we've made budget adjustments to account for this. Property taxes, reported at the first estimate that we may be about $85,000 short in property taxes. Right now, we've received a fairly large amount of property taxes. We've actually received a little over $9.2 million at this point. That's about $2.2 million more than we received at this time last year. I believe this won't represent an increase in our property taxes. I know that Sullivan County this year has, Sullivan County the previous year was very late in sending out their property tax notices. So I believe this is a result of those property tax notices going out earlier this year, and also just higher collections at that point of the year. I don't think that will result in a large increase in our property taxes at the end of the year. On the other hand, sales tax, through December, we received actually 52.2% of our sales tax estimate for the whole year. The amount we received through December does not represent the month of December, when we had a large, that's one of our largest months for sales tax collections with the Christmas sales in there. So to be at 52.2% at December 31st is a pretty high amount. That represents about a 5.2% increase over the amount of sales tax that was collected at this point in 2019. We had a very modest 0.4% growth in our budget. If this trend continues, I would imagine that we would see our sales tax collections at the end of the year be substantially higher than what our original estimate was. I do know that our first quarter financial update, we were saying that we were about 4.3% above at that time the previous year. Now we're about 2%. So hopefully this trend will go through for the rest of the year. Tuition, we may be a little short in our tuition collection this year. Probably about $400,000 out of $420,000 estimate. One of the things that was our early childhood fees. In the first quarter financial update, I reported to you that the 3 early childhood programs at the end of September had a deficit of $18,000. Very pleased to report that in this quarter, the 3 programs had a surplus of $31,000. I'd like to give a lot of credit to Dr. Doran for this. If she's still here, she is. In talking with her, in the first quarter, there was a lot of free childcare in the area, and our attendance was off. At this point, our programs are full, and we have the lady with us. So, and obviously too, they have been really watching their expenditures since that first quarter, trying to turn this around. With all 3 programs at this point have a surplus contributing to that $31,000. So, again, hopefully this will continue for the rest of the year. And if we don't want any list, I would anticipate our programs to be full. Our after-school programs, they're operating in the black. We have a surplus there of $2,600. So we're doing fine in those programs. We do have some local revenues. These are rental revenues, some funds that we receive internally from school accounts for field trips, some funds that are generated through some activities that happen. These revenues are down. There's some corresponding expenditures that are down as a result of that. And this is a direct result of COVID-19. Some of the activities are down. We're not doing field trips. We're not doing building rentals.
When you say building rentals, are we not renting out some of the stages around here? I know there's some dance groups that come through and they do like Aaron Robinson. Are you saying we're not doing that?
We are,
Oh.
but not much.
How much do we usually pull into those local revenues, excluding field trips, do you know?
Well, we have an estimated revenue amount for rentals of about $20,000. And right now, what's been recorded is just $1,000. And we'll see more of that coming in. But I would say that last year we probably were between $15,000 and $20,000. I don't know if it'll be $10,000 this year. Just a little update on our fund balance. We have budgeted $100,000 of our fund balance to fund some one-time expenditures in this year's budget. Of course, with the approval of budget tonight, that will be an additional $462,000 that the board appropriated in the fund balance. I had noted earlier that at the end of last year, our fund balance was $7.1 million. Operating budget of about $75 million. A 3% fund balance would be somewhere in the $2.2 to $2.3 billion range. And we've got a healthy fund balance in excess now of $6.5 million. So we're good there. I mentioned before, and I mentioned this in our first quarter financial update, of some of the items that we adjusted in our budget to take to account for the loss in BP funds. One of the big items was the transition funds that we had in the budget to help us bridge the gap. Our teacher pay scale, that was over $200,000 that we put on hold. A couple of teaching positions and savings from not having a health insurance increase is high. So we do have some other items that are increased as a result of COVID. We have some interim teachers that we have in place to support our remote choice learning program that really weren't budgeted. And some of the substitute costs are higher. But we also have not finalized some of our ESSER funding. We have some ESSER 1.0 money that was originally programmed that we would not see the expense on. So there could be some of those funds that we can defer to here to help offset some of these expenses. So that's what I've got for your financial update. If I can answer any questions, I can.
Questions, comments?
I have one. On the tuition students being down, is that because with us doing so much virtual or hybrid or remote choice learning, that some of our tuition kids opted to stay in their own, or do you know why our tuition is down? I mean, 20,000, not a lot, that is a lot of students.
I'm actually looking back right now and looking at, if you remember last year, our tuition was down. And actually, this year, we're doing better in tuition than we were last year. Now, mine's down from a couple of 2-3 years ago. I really don't know the answer to that completely. Some of it could be due to some students that may have been in the Colonial Heights area that may have been paying tuition that became city residents and no longer paying tuition. I really don't have a good answer for that.
We anticipate any more CARES Act dollars coming in?
We do know that our ESSER 2.0 funding, there is ESSER 2.0 funding that's coming. That's in the neighborhood of $7.6 million. We notified this past week of some funding that's coming to fund some summer programs. I think that is in the neighborhood of $700,000 to $800,000. So yes, there is.
So Kenneth, I want to speak to that. So the ESSER 2.0 money, that we have until 2023 to expend those dollars. And the buckets that those can be expended in, it has been expanded as to what was in ESSER 1. So capital can be looked at in ESSER 2 dollars. And so, but I know that our C&I team is working on what they anticipate their expenditures to be needing out of that before we start thinking about anything in the capital area. So, but we do have that, those dollars, like the ESSER 1 dollar, you would be expended by this next year, right? The ESSER 2 dollars have been extended to 2023. And so we've got time to plan that out over the next couple of years for how we would expend those dollars.
Questions? Committee report.
Does anybody want to go before me? All right, then I'm up. I want you to know I am wearing orange deliberately today. And that is because it signifies today is an awareness for teen dating violence. February is Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. And wearing orange today symbolizes you're aware of that issue. Kind of like wearing red on Friday was for heart awareness. But also with wearing orange, I'm gonna divert just a little bit. I found out that the orange ribbon that people wear, that you'll see occasionally, is an awareness for racial injustice. So is it not perfect I'm wearing orange? Because I don't like the color orange. And anybody who knows me knows I have no orange in my closet, I think, except for my jacket. So anyway, all those Tennessee fans that have given me a hard time for 20 years that I won't wear orange, I got it on tonight. But anyway, so one thing I did want to mention is with still involved with Scappy, they canceled the meeting for this month because the health department for some reason is inundated with this COVID vaccine or something. I don't know if you guys have heard about the COVID shots going around. But anyway, just joking. But they did want us to be aware that it is Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month, and that 1 in 3 teens are actually abused by a dating partner before they become adults. 1 in 3. So imagine all those teens out there dating. That's just a horrific number to me. But so with February being Awareness Month, they want people to be able to reach out. It's not just the girls are not the only ones being violated. Boys are too. Unfortunately, that it's more on the female side. But we just want to make teens aware that they do have help. There is support out there if they are in a bad situation. There are people that they can go to, whether it is a school teacher, school counselor, whether it's somebody at your church, whether it's a neighbor. Please talk to somebody and seek help. I am wearing my mask that we got 2 weeks ago for School Board Appreciation. It says Braves, but I wore it today in honor of that because I want people to be brave and step out. There's no reason anybody should be in a relationship that is abusive at any age. But the other thing is we want to educate teens on what is a healthy relationship. I think that is a big thing. People get into a situation and they think that's normal. Maybe that's what they saw growing up, so they think it's okay for their boyfriend or girlfriend to beat on them. It's not normal, so we want to understand what healthy relationships are. And there are lots of programs that are being offered to teens so they can understand what is okay to step away from, when should you report, when should you walk away. And so that's kind of some of the things that Scappy is making aware to everybody this month. But we definitely want people to be aware throughout the month of February that it is teen dating violence, and we would like to see that number drop instead of being 1 in 3 to maybe being, unfortunately, I don't think we'll ever get to 0, but that would be ideal. So we just want that number ratio to change significantly. With the diversity, not a whole lot. We've not made we've made progress, but not a lot that is easy to report on in this setting. We almost have a slogan, motto, trademark type thing for the Kingsport City Schools logo. We're arguing over one particular word. Dr. Morehouse is aware we're still discussing the word evolve because we think that it is an evolving culture, but evolve also sometimes seems slow. So is that really the right word? Because we do know it needs to be changed, but we don't want people to think that we're not doing anything and we're going at a very slow pace. So the community one, we've now moved from being every other week to once a month, and still having some interesting guest speakers to understand the differences. So once again, wearing orange, for my diversity kind of just seemed to fit today. And the other thing, the last thing I'm going to mention is I just think it's really cool that we had a DB graduate play in the Super Bowl on Sunday night. Actually, I shouldn't say he played in it. He was on the team that played in it, but still, I kept looking for him to come out.
He was on the team that was in it.
He was on the sideline dressed out. He was the backup center. So anyway, it's not often you have somebody from your local high school that can go and play with the best of the best. And he was there, and I just think that's just really cool for our community to recognize Daniel Kilgore for being there. And didn't bring home the big ring, but he still got a ring. And so that's all I have to report. Thank you all.
Thank you. I'll report briefly on the legislative committee. We have begun our regular schedule of teleconferences with the regional legislatures and joint forces with Johnson City Chamber participating in our phone calls as well. Next week, next Tuesday, Wednesday, Dr. Morehouse and I will be in Nashville for the TSBA Legislative and Legal Institute, and we have scheduled meetings with our area representatives on the Hill on Tuesday afternoon before we come home. I have to admit, I have not had an opportunity today to read the governor's state address. Hopefully I will get to that tomorrow and get some applause or concerns seeing that. We have a number of things that are advancing on our agenda for the year. Among that, in our March meeting, we are scheduled to discuss a superintendent evaluation. Mr. Heiss, you have an update on what we'll be looking at then?
The only real update right here is, as you know, in our evaluation, we alternate every year between a survey that goes out to the entire district and there's a survey that goes to Dr. Morehouse direct reports. For this year, the schedule is to do the survey with just Dr. Morehouse direct reports. And I hope to get that out. Get something for your review very shortly, and then hopefully get that out shortly after the board's day review.
Thank you, Mr. Hodgson. And a reminder to the board that Dr. Morehouse this year, as is our other faculty and staff, in a hold harmless situation in terms of evaluation based on school performance and things of that nature because of the COVID schedule. So that will not be a topic of discussion in his evaluation for this particular year. We look forward to that returning as part of his evaluation process. Do I have any other committee reports? Dr. Morehouse, I'll turn it to you.
Well, I did, based on the discussion of evaluation, I had this, celebrated this personal anniversary last week. In February 2nd was the completion of my third year. And so time flies when you're having fun. And so getting ready to starting into this fourth year, and proud of what we've been able to get accomplished over these past 3 years. Some of the things that just recently want to draw attention to is I really particularly want to say thank you to Dobbins Bennett High School for continuing the tradition that we started last year, which was the celebration of the Douglas High School. While that was virtual, everybody wore their Douglas uniforms. That was against Greenville. And if I remember right, they were wearing their celebrating George Clem School in Greenville, and they were wearing their uniform. And so seeing that happen across our region, it has been neat to see that idea grow. And so while we didn't have a huge crowd there, wasn't able to have a huge crowd to be able to continue that tradition, was really excited to see that. Particularly want to say thank you to our community for the personal decisions, the tough decisions that were made over the holidays and into the 1st of January that have allowed us to be in a situation where our numbers have decreased, that we were able to bring all of our students back into 100% for those students who chose face-to-face starting that this week. Particularly happy for our teachers that this Friday, we'll still have another virtual day, but it's going to be for the purpose of all of our staff to be able to be vaccinated, to get their first vaccination if they haven't already done that. And so grateful for that we're at this point, that our numbers are decreasing, our staff are getting the ability to be vaccinated, and excited for 2021 and the hope that it contains. You know, that we're moving in a positive direction. In January, we had our budget hearings. Mr. Mr. Welch, Ms. Myers were able to join us as we listened into budget requests. We really had asked our leaders to come with us with the intent to really, and everybody was collectively bought into this, is that this is the year that we really want to do everything that we can to compensate our teachers for just the incredible work that they've done over the last year. And so that we, this isn't the year that we're really looking at new programs, new people unless numbers demand it, but that trying to do everything that we can to draw the resources together to be able to offer as much of a boost in compensation that we can. With that said, they brought before a lot of capital improvements. We know that we have some capital improvements that we need to make, and being able to prioritize that. Also knowing that we have some additional dollars on the horizon coming through ESSER that will allow us to do some of those things. And so trying to make wise use of those funds. Want to say congratulations to a couple of our teams. The wrestling team has already traveled the state and is back. Now some of our individual wrestlers will go here soon. And so it's a big deal to make it to state competition. So congratulations to our wrestling team. Our bowling team, I think first time ever, or maybe in a long time, made it to the state competition. I think we just found out that they finished 7th in the state, but congratulations to our bowling team. And then I also know this past week, while not state competition, at least our boys basketball team won the conference again. So they're getting ready to enter into tournament play right now. Both our girls and boys teams are entering into tournament play for basketball. So a lot of those things on the horizon as well. And so with that said, yes, going with Mr. Welch to meet with our legislators, trying to, I'm in much the same way, trying to digest the governor's State of the State address yesterday, tried to know what things we want to advocate for, what things that we have concerns about, and as we go, while there was a special session that just dealt with education, also there's other things that are still on the table, and so not all the educational issues were addressed in that special session. And so trying to be able to give our 2 cents so that we can make best use of the resources that we have here to have the greatest impact on kids. With that said, I'll conclude my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Morehouse. Ms. McLean, would you mind reminding us when we have our group photo?
It is prior to the work session.
Prior to the work session, so we want to look pretty when we come to the.
Yes,
next
February 23rd.
Is this coming?
Yes.
Work session, that's correct. Yeah. And we'll have, again, a reminder that we'll have a special call meeting, with one item on the agenda dealing with the calendar change, for that particular meeting. Again, we've got a lot of budget talks coming up, and so we're going to be very busy as a board for the next couple of months. So just, hopefully you see Belts and hang in there with us. I'm looking at a date as our board retreat, a tentative date is April 27th, which is when we normally have our regular scheduled session. And we're looking at a half-day kind of event at this time, so that you can start making arrangements for that on your calendar. I want to issue personal thanks to the Sullivan County Health Department for making shops available to the teachers and staff in all the Sullivan County schools on Friday and Saturday, and I'm hopeful that most of the faculty and staff in our county are able to take advantage of that. I had my first shop today with Unicoi County, and I thank Unicoi County for doing that, and boost of confidence knowing you got that in on. So for those of you who are waiting for your vaccination, let me encourage you. I'm still sitting here. I've had no side effects other than watching a needle go in my arm, which is never a fun thing. But I encourage you to do that, and so we can get life not to a new normal, but to normal. So please schedule your vaccination. Get it as soon as you are able to do that. With that, we stand adjourned. Thank you, board. Here.
Man.